1, 2, 3, 4.
Screen time, screen time, screen time, screen time.
It's my screen time too.
Hello, and welcome to It's My Screen Time Too, the podcast where two moms cannot believe they made it through 2018. Woohoo!
Yay!
I'm Katie.
And I'm Deborah.
And I have two sons, Jay, he's 3, and Kenny, he's 4 months.
And I have 3 kids, a 9-year-old named Tony, and twins named Libby and Nate, who by the time you are listening to this will be 6, I think.
Wow!
Yeah.
It's crazy how they keep growing.
But they're so adorable, right?
They are so adorable.
Yeah, so we like to tell a quick little story about how cute our children are, or sometimes how awful they are, because in addition to being pop culture consumers, we're moms too. Do you want to go?
Sure. Mine is actually screen time related this time around.
Okay.
So Kenny, bless his little 4-month-old heart, is not sleeping. So I've been getting up, 3 times a night with him, which has been super fun. And was it yesterday or the day before? I'm honestly not sure because the days just blur together.
Yeah.
It was the crack of dawn, and I had just fed Kenny and put him back down at 5 o'clock, and Jay woke up and was saying that he was ready to be awake and he wanted to eat breakfast and blah, blah, blah. Kevin was on his way out the door to work, and he said, you know what? I'll just give Jay some breakfast and turn on the TV and you can relax for a little while. And I really did not want to do that. So, of course, I got up and I was my full faculties weren't there, but I was like, I don't want to turn on the TV yet and give Jay screen time first thing in the morning. I'm pretty strict about that on school days. So I gave him the iPad and I just opened up whatever the iPad equivalent of a Word document is.
Yeah.
And let him go to town on the emojis.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And that occupied him for at least a half an hour.
That's a good compromise.
So I thought of it as screen time light.
Totally. It's interactive, not violent content. That's good.
So how about you? What have your kids been up to?
Well, it's still the holiday season, and so we've been lighting candles. We usually don't light candles. I'm not a big candle person, but around the holidays, we have them. So first of all, I taught Tony how to light matches.
Ooh, that's terrifying.
And that's very thrilling for him. He has explicit instructions not to ever play with matches. And Libby has been calling the candle flames firelights.
Aww. Like in the Christmas song.
Yeah, can I blow out those firelights tonight?
Oh.
It's cute.
That is very sweet.
Yeah. So back to screen time. We are going to discuss screen time in the news. And today we're discussing an article in the Daily Mail, a UK publication, is about a restaurant in the UK called Frankie and Benny's that is offering free kids meals for a limited number of dates if parents are willing to give up their phones at dinner time. So if your family goes into this restaurant, they give you a shoebox sized box, your phones go into it, and then they have activities for you to do while you wait for your dinner. And I was interested in this article because it seems like usually you hear criticism about kids using screens when it's not appropriate, but this is about parents.
Yeah.
One time, and I was interested in it because Jeremy and I talk about this pretty often. One time, this was 1 or 2 years ago, we went to a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
We don't let our kids have screens unless Jeremy is taking them to Buffalo Wild Wings and then they play trivia, which I do not participate in BW3 audience because I hate that restaurant. This family of four sat down next to us. It was a mom, a dad, and two like teenage kids. And one of them had a phone, one of them had a book, one of them had a Kindle, and one of them had like maybe an iPad or something. So everybody had something to look at. They like ordered their food from the server, and then they all just read or played or watched, and they did not interact with one another at all. It was such a downer to
Oh,
watch.
wow.
Yeah, so we have vowed never to be that family. So for us, like, we don't use our phones at dinner. It's kind of a no-brainer, but is it really such a problem that a restaurant has to offer free kids meals?
Yeah, I have to say, I don't know that I've ever seen this. I don't know that I've ever seen the adults being the ones at the table that are lost in their phones.
No, and maybe this is a cultural difference between the United States and the United Kingdom. I don't know. I want to know a little bit more about this restaurant
Yeah.
and what their diners' behavior usually looks like.
I mean, if you could see the look on my face, I'm just flabbergasted.
Yeah, and it was in response to there was like this national survey. I have no idea if it was a legitimate survey, if it was like a CNN opinion type clickbait survey, but something like 27% of kids were disappointed in how much their parents used their phones, and they wanted their parents to pay attention to them instead of their phones. It was so sad.
It was really sad, but I wonder how much of that, if it was a legitimate poll, was actually measuring kids' frustration that their parents wouldn't give them their phones.
Yeah, because that would score high. My kids would score high on that.
Yeah. So weird. And I wonder what would happen if you walked into that restaurant and you were like, well, here are the grown-ups' phones, but the kid's going to keep watching his cartoons. Like, would you still get your free meal?
I doubt it.
Oh,
I
man.
doubt.
So do we have any other follow-up from our last episode? Have you watched any more holiday programming?
Home Alone. That's a family favorite here. And we are recording The Grinch That Stole Christmas, the original one, because Nate has requested watching it. Have yet to watch it though.
We watched a really cute Netflix short movie called, oh gosh, I'm going to flub the title. I think it was Angela's Christmas.
Okay.
And it was just a little cartoon about an Irish girl who thinks that the baby Jesus in the creche is cold because he doesn't have any blankets. And it was really very heartwarming. If you ask Jay, he'll say that he hated it, but I thought it was very sweet. But today, we are no longer talking about holiday programming. We are moving on to bigger and better. No, not really. Just different things. Today's topic is the Cartoon Network's Unikitty, which apparently comes with an exclamation point at the end. I don't know if you could tell from the tone of my voice. So Unikitty premiered in January of this past year, 2018. And it's based on a character from the Lego movie who is like a little kid's Lego kitty that is also a unicorn, hence Unikitty. And so she got her own show just this past year. And apparently Unikitty is a princess and she rules over this land called the Unikingdom. It never really came up in any of the episodes that we watched. But she lives with her brother, Puppycorn, who is a dog/unicorn. Like Unikitty is a cat/unicorn. But they're brother and sister, so maybe they're half brother and sister and they share like one unicorn parent. I don't know.
I liked that aspect of it because I'm white. My brother is adopted. He was born in Korea, and so we do not look at all alike. So I always love it when there are families that don't look like each other portrayed in the media. Even if it's a brother and sister, Unikitty and Puppycorn. I appreciate it and I feel represented.
Aw, never feels seen. That's great. You're off to a great start, Unikitty. So Unikitty lives with her brother Puppy Corn and their friends Dr. Fox and Hawkadile. That's the word I was looking for. And their babysitter, regent, I don't know, this little 1x3 Lego brick named Richard, who is the resident party pooper. That's pretty much it for a summary. And they live together in the castle and have adventures. We picked it because I think it's pretty safe to say our kids are Lego fans. Would you describe all three of your kids as Lego fans?
They all love Legos. They love all Lego movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've seen the Lego movie a bunch of times. We have the sheet music to Everything is Awesome. Tony loves to play that on the piano. We get Lego magazine in the mail. They love to read that.
Wow. I did not even know
Yeah.
that existed. You do love
It's-
magazines. That's a deep cut. Lego
It's
magazine?
basically advertising for Lego masquerading as a magazine. And they love Lego Batman. I really liked the end of the Lego movie
Mhm.
when Unikitty, who is, I think, built out of Duplos,
Oh, okay.
comes on and is like sort of sweet looking, but you can also see that she's going to just terrorize the Lego universe. So it seemed like an obvious thing to watch.
Yes, definitely. And we have watched some other Lego properties in the past, although, as we'll get into, this is a little bit different. So there's only been the one season. We started with season 1, episode 1, Spooky Game, and moved on to episode 14, Pet Pet, and finished up with episode 30 or 31. It was kind of hard to tell numerically, called Brawl Bot. So, as usual, we will start by going through the episodes one by one and then move on to our more general thoughts. Deborah?
Okay, so in episode 1, Spooky Game, there is basically no origin story. You're just plopped right into Unikitty world. And she and Puppy Corn happen upon a carnival booth where this like ghoul offers them a free board game with a very sinister premise. They can play it, but only one winner gets to leave the game. And Unikitty just kind of ignores that and takes it because it's free, which is what all of us would do, right? To be honest. And they play the game. It threatens to put a curse upon everybody's soul except for the winner. And then Unikitty, quote unquote, wins the game because she does get to the end and she is going to win, but then she chooses like not to play and she wants everybody to be a winner. And the ghoul is, doesn't get to trap everybody in the game for all of eternity. This particular plot was not my favorite, but I did really enjoy the show.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think if it had started with a different episode, I would have liked it even more, but I just wanted a little bit of background to go on.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
like an over caffeinated show. Like the dialogue is really fast. The frames per second is super fast. Unikitty and the other characters do this thing where they have like a normal face, and then for like a frame, it'll go into like a rage face or like a super happy face. And I just found it to be honestly a little hard to keep up with.
It's definitely very jarring visually, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But plot wise, I have to disagree with you because I love the hyper competitive siblings angle of this
Okay.
episode, because the whole thing was just like they were being presented again and again with imminent peril, which they just ignored because they were so obsessed about beating one another. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that says about me that I really found that entertaining, but I thought it was a great premise for a plot. And if anything, I liked the setup better than the execution.
Okay. I thought it was a little bit of a scary concept for a first episode. And what's the rating on this? Is it over 7?
Oh,
7+.
I think that's what Common Sense Media said.
Yeah, because at one point in the game, Hawkadile finds like a jail cell full of these characters who didn't make it out of the game. And that was really scary. It was like, I mean, definitely standing for hell, right?
Yeah, well,
Or
it was
purgatory at least.
like a spooky freak show in a carnival, right?
Yeah, but they're damned there for like all eternity.
Unless they are damned in the previous phase in which they got trapped in a corn maze and are turned into ears of corn.
Yeah. So do you want to move on to episode 14?
Okay, Pet. Unikitty, Puppycorn, Hawkadile, and Dr. Fox find this little yellow, kind of marshmallowy looking creature, and they think it's so adorable. They want to adopt it and take it home. But Richard, the party pooper, is like, every time you bring a pet home, horrible things happen. And they stop short of saying that Unikitty kills all the pets, but I mean, that's the obvious implication. So he says that if they can take care of this little blob thing that they eventually name Pet, then they can keep it. But if they fail, they can never have another pet again. So the stakes are really high. They get Pet home. Pet is adorable to them, but they very quickly lose Pet. And they don't want to admit it to Richard because they don't want to never be allowed to have another pet. So Unikitty dresses up like Pet and goes through the motions of being trained in order to fool Richard into thinking Pet is still there, until they get to the point where Richard insists that they have Pet fixed, at which point Unikitty reveals the charade. Richard reveals that he knew it was Unikitty all along, and that in fact Pet is not an actual pet. It's just like a little toy that comes for free with a bag of pet food at the pet store. Which everyone promptly ignores and celebrates the fact that they can have a pet, even though it's not a real pet. The end.
That's good. That's good.
So what did you think of Pet?
I thought it was so funny. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. Richard has this like droll monotone way of talking. You imitated it very well at the beginning of your summary. It was so funny. And then Pet just like parrots back everything that they say, which is also really funny. And Pet is a really cute little creature. I thought that was funny. I thought Unikitty's disguise was hilarious. They take like basically a pillowcase and cut out eyes. And she doesn't look anything like Pet, but they think they're really pulling one over on Richard.
I loved all of the training scenes when they were training Unikitty as Pet, and Unikitty was working so hard inside her little pillow, so she was surrounded by pillow fluff and you could just see her sweating it out. It was great.
Yes.
But again, those really quick emotion cuts to like emotional faces of the characters, like they would look at Pet, or it would cut to Pet and Pet would do something, and then it would show all their faces and they all had like heart eyes for a moment, or like those really big emotion eyes. I don't know how else to explain them, but you know when they make the pupils really huge and
like anime eyes, kind of. Yeah. Even wonder if there's a merchandise tie-in. Like I would love a Pet.
Just draw some eyes on a gumdrop.
It would be a perfect stocking stuffer. But I want one that's gonna copy my voice.
You also don't really want to have to buy a real pet.
True. And it has an on-off switch on the back.
That's
which
true.
Richard points out at the end.
I think this was a good, funny retread of a premise that I'm sure we've all seen before in kids media. The whole like, oh, you have to learn to be responsible if you want a pet thing. It's not uncommonly seen, but this was a really, I thought, fun and funny take on it.
And this one did make me wonder who is the intended audience, because the very end when Richard is like explaining and they're like not listening that Pet is a toy and he's like, everybody can have a pet. That's just such a parenting moment. I really identified with that. And I think that would just not even resonate with kids. I felt like I was the audience for this
Yeah. Well,
episode.
and this is coming from the Cartoon Network, which historically does have more content that's geared towards grown-ups. So that is an interesting thing to think about. Do you want to move on to Brawlbot?
Yes. Brawlbot. So Dr. Fox invented Decimator, which is the greatest fighter robot, and is going to enter Decimator into like a world wrestling championship between robots. And Hawkadial wants to get Dr. Fox's attention and tell Dr. Fox something very important. And instead of just talking to Dr. Fox, Unikitty encourages Hawkadial to dress up as Brawlbot. And then Brawlbot faces off with Decimator. Decimator's basically going to kill Hawkadial. So Hawkadial has to reveal that he's just wearing a robot costume and he can't actually compete in this robot competition. And like they even state at the end that honesty wins and he should have just talked to Dr. Fox in the first place.
If I were these other competitors in this big robot competition, I would be so mad because Brawlbot takes out all of these other robots along the way to like get to his match against the Decimator. I would be like, why did I get to, how is it legal that I was taken out of competition by someone that wasn't even a robot? Like, I want a do-over. Oh no, I can't have a do-over. My robot has been destroyed. I was angry on their behalf.
What did you think of that little bunny? The little bunny, it was like a sweet, adorable bunny robot. But then its head pops off and like all of these saws come out. And it had like laser eyes that could kill another robot. It was crazy.
It reminded me quite a bit of the Microbot from Big Hero 6. Have you seen that one?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
How it's got like the smiley face and then it turns around and it's the evil face. This was by far my least favorite of the three.
It was very violent. Robot violence, but super violent.
Yeah.
There was some funny dialogue. Like, they were talking about what to name Hawkadial's robot alter ego. Somebody was like, more like Brawl Not.
You want to program your robots to be able to give out sick burns. And then there was this little wheelie robot that would come out every time it happened and be like, sick burn.
Yeah.
On the surface, the show is very pink and sort of, I wrote bubblegummy. That is a word that I have never spelled before. It's pink and bubblegummy, sort of like My Little Pony. But again, going back to your point about who is this for, like, is it winkingly pink and sunny and bubblegummy? Is it mockingly so? Or is it supposed to be earnest? Like, how are we supposed to be enjoying this? And who is supposed to be enjoying it? I guess those are two different questions.
Yeah, I noticed when doing holiday shopping that Unikitty Lego sets are being marketed hardcore at places like Target. And they're next to like Lego Friends, which are like the quote unquote girl Legos. But I don't think this show is just for girls. I think it could be enjoyed by anybody. it's not princessy at all. It's
Mm-mm.
like funny, violent. It just seems like there's a big difference between who the toys are marketed to, which would seem to be like little girls, and
Mm-hmm.
then the actual audience of the show. I don't think, I'm not sure that like a 4-year-old girl would really get it.
Yeah, at the same time, like, I hate to give them too much credit by saying this, and I don't mean it in the way that I might mean it in a different context, but I do think there are different levels. Like, I think the super bright color scheme and the super frenetic pacing, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that can be attractive to a younger audience to the exclusion of the plot. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know that the plot would matter all that much. Whereas for me, those were the elements that I really did not care for at all. Like I felt visually assaulted by the brightness of the colors and the quickness of the cuts.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hate those momentary facial expressions where all of a sudden they take, like, the Unikitty's face is just a block, right? Then all of a sudden
Right.
they take it and put like almost this too photorealistic touch to it, like the wrinkles in her chin when she's crying all of a sudden. Bleh, it just I don't like it for some reason. It feels a little Ren and Stimpy to me in that sense.
Oh, totally. That was definitely a comparison I made.
Yeah.
Yeah, very influenced by Ren and Stimpy. Stimpy for sure.
Which is weird because I look back on Ren and Stimpy and I remember liking it, but this, for some reason, just, oh, the visuals of it were not sitting well with me, which I thought was a shame because I did, at least with Spooky Game and Pet Pet, pretty genuinely enjoy the plots.
I enjoyed the plots as well. I wonder if so a younger audience probably identifies with those really intense and fast moving emotional changes.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a preschooler,
Oh,
they
good
can
point.
go from like chill and happy to like filled with rage and back in like 2 minutes.
Oh, that's a really good point. You know what? Just talking this over with you, it makes me think, you know how we've talked about how there are preschool shows that are like aspirational and they show
Mm-hmm.
kids like how we want them to be, like Daniel Tiger and whatnot, and then they're like
Mm-hmm.
your horrid Henrys that just show them being awful. Maybe
Uh-huh.
this is like legitimately the middle ground.
I think you could be right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm giving Unikitty too little credit.
Speaking of the animation, I actually had the opposite reaction. I really liked it. It reminded me of cartoons from my youth,
Mm-hmm.
where like if a character's running, the background screen is just like wavy lines, which is how animation was done like in the 80s before CGI.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked it. And like the corn Children of the Corn scene, like the corn background was like clearly drawn much differently than the characters were drawn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a prop background, more like a theater type background.
Uh-huh.
So I really liked it. I liked I identify with the rage moments, like, oh, now I'm fine.
Oh no, I mean I definitely identify with those moments as well. Perhaps just as much as a preschooler would. Did you find it odd or did you mind at all that it didn't look particularly Lego-y?
No, because I think of Unikitty as a Duplo.
Okay. But I mean it
And
didn't.
it did not look Lego-y like the Lego movies at all.
Right.
No, so totally different. But I think they're just made of Duplos. Except for Richard, he's clearly a Lego.
Yeah, that's true.
I also liked how the animation seemed like very achievable. Like
Mhm.
I'm not an artist. I don't draw very well, but I feel like I could approximate these characters.
It was very they animated what they needed when they needed it. Like
Hmm.
Unikitty and Puppycorn didn't always have arms except when like they needed to do something with their arms.
Hmm. Right.
Did you have any thoughts on the voice cast?
I thought they were great. I looked up who the actors were. So Gray Delisle has been in tons of shows that we watched. Her IMDb profile now calls her Gray Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
So she plays Puppycorn.
Oh,
Just
and she was in the one I always remember her from is Bold, but
right.
she was in something else that we watched too, right?
A few things that we've watched. I didn't look them up. Dr. Fox is Kate Micucci, and she is like the tiny little woman who plays half of Garfunkel and Oates.
Yeah, she was Webby in the new DuckTales.
Yeah, she has a lot of voice actor credits on her IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
The rest seemed to be voice actors that I didn't really know, but I liked them a lot. I really liked whoever played Hawkadial.
Mm-hmm.
Thought he was great.
Yeah, I thought they did a great job of choosing voices that really described the character very well.
Mm-hmm.
Richard was, of course, my favorite because I love a good stick in the mud.
Right.
That's my jam right there. Did you notice anything having to do with the music? I didn't really notice. I was too busy being punched in the eyeballs by all the colors.
Yeah, I thought the music was fine. There was one scene in Spooky Game where there was like a spooky piano lick, and it was just like the beginning of like a 90s rock anthem, like felt like the beginning of November Rain, sort of. It wasn't exactly that tune, but I think whoever created this show must be like my same exact age, watched all the same shows when they were growing up, because there were a lot of moments for me to enjoy.
And that's probably accurate at this point. Like the people who are in charge of these shows probably are right about our age range.
Mm-hmm.
Did you compare it to any adult TV show or movie?
Okay. Speaking of 90s, okay, I thought that the characters pretty well corresponded to the characters in Friends.
Okay.
So Mr. Fox is Monica, Dr. Fox is Monica, Hawkadile's Chandler, Richard is Ross, obviously. Puppycorn is Joey.
Okay.
Unikitty is Phoebe.
Okay. So there's no Rachel?
No.
Okay. Well, she was pretty expendable anyway. Sorry, Jen.
How about you?
I almost think we are kind of on the same page because specifically the plot, I was thinking about Spooky Game, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been the plot to an episode of Will and Grace. So that was the place I immediately went because it was often a plot point that Grace was hyper competitive in their game nights.
Yes.
And Unikitty and Puppycorn were certainly hyper competitive. Brawlbot, just plot wise, also reminded me of a favorite movie of mine. Not really a grown up movie, but the Hugh Jackman gem, Real Steel. If you've not seen it.
Oh, I've never seen it.
It is about fighting robots, and it is awesome.
Oh, funny.
Did you go ahead and cast a gritty HBO reboot?
Well, how about this? How about real Duplo or Lego people being moved around by hands and voiced by funny people like John C. Reilly, Will Ferrell, and just like little shorts.
Okay.
Between like adult stuff, like having adult conversations. I'd watch that.
Yeah, I would too. I like funny people being funny.
This is more of a Funny or Die type video than an HBO reboot, though, I think.
Yeah. Well, I was really, as I mentioned, attracted to the competitive sibling aspect of Spooky Game.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see not really a reality show, but a show in which real people play fictionalized versions of themselves. So I want to see a show about John and Joan Cusack where they're just constantly competing with one another.
I would love that. Yeah, that's good.
And they ignore really commonsensical perils just because they're so obsessed with this competition in a similar way that Unikitty and Puppycorn did.
That's good. Would it be just them have their own series, or would it feature like different siblings?
I Googled around, and the vast majority of Hollywood siblings that I could think of, and even the ones that I found with Google, were like two guys or two girls. And I really like the dynamic of having one of each. So I could do a whole series with John and Joan, or, you could do like Tia and Tamara Mowry fighting it out, or any number of Hollywood siblings. Ooh, I guess you could do Maggie and Jake Gyllenhaal as well.
Oh, that would be great.
That would
Yeah,
be a good brother-sister pairing.
totally.
Plus, Jake Gyllenhaal does a really good desperation face. Like, I don't know if you saw that movie where he was like a grasping news producer. Oh, what was it called?
Brokeback Mountain.
Yes.
I did see that.
Oh, I don't remember what it was called, but he played like a cutthroat news producer who would like do anything to get the story. So he was constantly giving this like kind of wide-eyed, terrifyingly manic face. And I think that face would be well suited to a show like this.
Remember when like 30-year-old Jake Gyllenhaal played like a 18-year-old boy in Day After Tomorrow? He was supposed to be like a teenager.
Wait, wasn't he actually young?
No, he was so much older
Really?
in real life than his character. Yeah.
Are you sure? Because that was a long time ago. Wow, now I have to look this up.
Maybe he was like 25. He was definitely like a full-grown man playing like a boy.
Oh, that's hilarious. But he has kind of that boyish look about him, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. So besides Ren and Stimpy, do you think we had it better when we were kids?
I don't know, and we've talked about this a lot, but I don't know that we had too much content that was operating on multiple levels. I don't think we had a lot that was also there for the grown-ups in the room. It's nice to be seen, so maybe the content that is just for kids and not for grown-ups is fine. But in this sense, no, I don't think we necessarily had it better when we were kids. What do you think?
Same. I think this is better than what was on when we were kids.
We are living in peak TV, so there are lots of options, even for kids. Even for grown-ups who want to sit down and watch kids shows. Which, speaking of which, we should say that Unikitty episodes are only 11 minutes long, which I was so grateful for because of the very intense visual style. I don't know if you wish they were a half an hour.
No, I love a show that's like 15 minutes.
And
and this, if you skipped the commercials at the end, it was shorter than that.
Yeah. And sometimes when we watch shows that are only 11 minutes long, I think, oh, these probably originally aired in half an hour programming blocks. Maybe we should be watching double the number, but this is an instance in which I was really glad that I didn't make us watch 6 instead of 3.
So you maybe just answered this, but would you ever watch this alone voluntarily?
No, and I don't even know that I would want to watch it with Jay.
Okay. I would definitely watch it with my kids.
Yeah.
I don't think I would watch it alone voluntarily, but it's definitely something I could sit down and enjoy with some of my kids.
Should we segue into whether or not this is good for our kids? Why only some of your kids?
Well, I just don't. My boys aren't into watching like a real show right now, but Libby still will watch shows.
Okay.
And I thought about this when I was watching the Brawlbot episode, and it is not exactly good for kids.
No.
It's Unikitty is kind of a horrible creature. She's really irresponsible, as we saw in Pet Pet. duplicitous. Like she was trying to pull one over on Richard, the parental figure in that episode. Brawlbout was really super violent. So no, I don't think it's great for kids, but it's better than other things.
I guess it's maybe good from an entertainment perspective, but not as far as like a behavior modeling perspective is concerned.
Yeah.
Unikitty is supposed to be governing a kingdom. Who put Unikitty in charge? Oh gosh, I hope Richard is doing most of the heavy lifting. I hope he has like a real regency.
Maybe she's like the British crown, like just a figurehead, and there's a parliament actually like enacting laws.
What must the rest of the world think, though, if Unikitty is like the figurehead for this whole country? They must be a laughing stock.
Katie, Donald Trump is our president.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I see it now. Yeah. And on that note, ratings?
I would give it a 4. I enjoyed it.
I have to go 2.5. Just the visually alone, I couldn't get past it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of It's My Screen Time Too. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on Facebook to continue the conversation at facebook.com/myscreentime2. And that's where you can see posts about what we're covering in our next episode, what we're watching, and what we are reading. You can tweet us with show or movie suggestions or general comments at myscreentime2. Email us at myscreentime2@gmail.com. And our theme music was composed and performed by me and my adorable children, and our podcast is produced by Katie. Tune in next time for more real talk about the movies and TV beloved by kids and tolerated by parents. Bye.
Bye.
Screen